So my first video is now out there, and honestly, I feel pretty courageous for publishing it, but there's also a heap of terror going on the inside associated with what publishing it means. Because while I was thinking about this business and in the process of planning it all and preparing the content, I hadn't completely crossed that line into actually doing anything yet. So publishing that first video, well, that's definitely changed things. This is no longer something I'm only thinking about starting now. I've now made the attempt real, and if the attempt is real, it means I could fail again. So I've actually been asking myself, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid will happen if I try again and it doesn't work? So when I sit with that question, it's not just about the business failing, it's about me never have been able to achieve a life that I've always wanted since I was a kid. I've always wanted to live in the country. I've always wanted to live on some acreage, a nice country cottage, bit of a veggie patch, garden patch, a couple of horses, two or three, or if you have two, you've got to have three, at least 3 horses, some fenced off paddocks, just facilities that I need to keep my horses. Bit of an arena would be nice too. I don't want a mansion, I don't want anything flash, but just something that will do what I want it to do. And the thing about that is I want the time to be able to enjoy that life. I want the money to be able to enjoy that life without having to stress about money. And I also want the freedom to schedule my day my way, or schedule my weeks my way. A weekend doesn't have to be a weekend. Something I've realised throughout my working life now is I don't want structured hours, a set routine. I understand you've got to have a little bit of a routine, but it's nice to be able to rearrange your weekly plan because something pops up, or knowing that you can do some things during the week rather than wait till the weekend rather than doing things during peak times when everyone else is doing them. I just don't want to work those standard hours and work for a boss, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm kind of really scared that if this business doesn't make it, I'm going to have to return to some sort of conventional job. I know, first world problems, but it's just something I would love to create for myself. And without this business working out, I don't know if that's ever possible. So I guess because I place all of that on making this business work, I can feel myself placing an enormous amount of pressure on that. I've got this, I want to create this business, but I've also got this underlying fear associated with that. And at the same time, I've got this sense of urgency because I'm not earning income at the moment. And I really want to make this work. And with that sense of urgency, I've got I find myself, I can procrastinate. And I know that procrastination is just about me feeling the fear. And my system doesn't feel safe. So yeah, it actually took me 2 weeks once I'd come up with the plan for that first video, it took me a good 2 weeks to actually make it happen, and it should have only taken a couple of days. But like I said, publishing that video, it makes things real, and now I'm committed. I've got no choice but to be committed. And it's not that I don't want to be committed, but yeah, it's scary. It's scary when you feel you failed before, and it hasn't been easy getting to this point where I'm at now of starting to get stuff out there. And one of the other big fears that I do seriously have is if I start putting stuff out there and, women who have experienced the same thing as me or a very similar thing start watching it and thinking, there's hope, and then I don't make it, I feel like that's a big responsibility, and that's scary. I don't want to give anyone any false hope. I think this is something I need to be very clear about, not only with anyone watching, but with myself as well. I can share my experience honestly, and I can let another woman know that she isn't the only one who's felt disappointed or frightened or unsure whether she has what it takes. But I can't prove what she is capable of either through my success, and I can't disapprove it either should I fail. That's something that I just can't take on if I'm going to go through with this. Just as I'm trying not to let the outcome of the business become another verdict on me, I don't want someone else to use my outcome as a verdict on her either. We might recognise ourselves in each other's stories, but my journey is not evidence of how hers would end. I still don't know whether this business will work. In fact, I'm still in the trenches discovering if my idea is even viable. And the reason it frightens me so much is that it feels as though far more than a business is at stake. It feels connected to the life I still want, the acreage, the horses, the freedom, and the ability to decide how I want to spend my time. I'm trying again because I want to create income in a way that could help me build that life, and because I'm not ready to give up on it. That doesn't mean I feel certain. It doesn't mean the fear hasn't disappeared simply because I published that first video. At the moment, courage doesn't feel like believing I'm definitely going to succeed. It just feels like making the attempt real, even though I know I could be disappointed again.